We're at Darlington, Lady in Black, Tyler Reddick. We have a little internal debate here to fade or not to fade. Let's get into it. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Sterling Theiss and Ryan Mahle. What is up, guys? We're recording at about midnight on late Saturday, early Sunday morning. What's going on with you guys? How you doing?
Not too bad. How's it going? Burning the whole midnight oil, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. Let's do it. So what do we need to know about this track in particular? Let's just get right into this shit. Go ahead.
This is the toughest track. It's a high tire wear. It's got two different turns basically.
Yeah.
The one's a really long what do you want to say?
Not like a sweeping turn.
And then the other one is a narrow not sweeping but like a
hairpin almost.
More of a hairpin, because something with the farmland right outside of there. Something happened where they had to shorten the track, so they just took a piece out of the turn and made the turn. So it's an interesting track. High tire wear. Both turns are different, so you have to attack each turn differently. So it's a very, very hard track. Anybody that wins this definitely values it a lot more than a lot of other tracks. So,
Sterling, what do you think? You got anything to add to that? Any thoughts?
No, you pretty much covered it. Oldest surface in the series here, and it's fucking rough and worn out. Gonna eat up them tires. Seen in the Xfinity race today, they were like 20 laps in. They were already off 3 seconds from the start, so a lot of fall off.
So
yeah, that's what we like.
What jumped out to you with qualifying and practice? Obviously, we got Tyler Reddick on the pole here. He seems to have had success at this track in the past. Now, some of these other guys that have had success and had some wins, are we just automatically boosting these guys because this is such a hard track and obviously they do well here? What are we thinking right off the bat with qualifying and practice? What jumped out to you?
Yeah, I'm definitely a guy that's looking at track history here. The guys that run good here are probably going to continue to run good here because, like I said, this is a demanding race. So the guys that have done it definitely get a bump in my book. Is that what you're...
Yeah, that's definitely going to look a lot at track history here because it is one of the tracks that you either know how to get around it or you just struggle every time you come here. But Tyler Reddick, I want to say he's got 3 top 3s in the Ford Next Gen.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I didn't know. I know Reddick hasn't got a win here, I don't think, right? He has no wins. I don't remember him ever winning here. Okay.
No, he's got 9 career starts, no wins.
Okay.
Yeah, second, 22nd, third, and second in Next Gen. And he's starting up front. So it feels like we got to make a decision here. Is he going to be the highest owned guy? Is this our sort of key to the slate? Do we want to go over the field? Do we want to be under the field? I think that's the biggest question we have here, right?
Yeah, that's me and Muscles, we kind of talked pre-show about this, and he started out with that fade, and I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. But looking more into it, Reddick, the biggest thing about him, he's got that number 1 pit stall. And at Darlington, that means a fuck ton. So, the number 1 pit stall is the biggest reason I'm afraid to fade him. But I went back through practice speeds, and I looked. And after you get 10 laps in, he really started to fall off. And Brad Keselowski, who starts second, he was the fastest through the first 20 laps or so. Then his teammate Chris Baker, he was also fastest through the first 20 laps there, and he starts third. So it's just, you got 2 RFK cars up front there, and you're gonna have Tyler Reddick, and I want to go RFK because I think we see Brad Keselowski or Chris Buescher leading this race after 15, 20 laps.
I couldn't agree more. And then like I see like a guy like Larson starting 5th, and then William Byron, who actually like I was looking at his lap times and I'm like, oh, I kind of missed that. Like he had a lot of really fast lap times. So like William Byron's got a hot rod starting behind him. And yeah, like Reddick it seems like now it could change race time, but it could just seem like his equipment just kind of fell off. And Reddick last week was a race that Reddick, like they definitely circle, like that team runs great at Kansas, and he just unloaded not fast. So, I mean, I said this pre-qualifying and pre-practice that kind of worried me for this team a little bit, that he didn't do anything.
Yeah, and he got into the wall really early last week. He got into the wall in practice this week, and I think we see that again. I think we see him get into the wall, and you do that, you can fuck that tail link up, and there goes your whole race.
And that is a Tyler Reddick special. He always, even going back to his RCR days when he raced the 8 car, he always would have a good car and then he'd overstep it.
Yeah.
And he would always brush and somehow screw it up. Like I don't trust him starting first. That's just, it could bite me, but
Yeah, I see him around 25% owned, and I actually think that's a little bit low. I think he's going to be closer to like 30, 35 maybe, and I'll probably be more like 15, maybe 20%.
that's fair.
Like, I definitely can't fade him, but I don't want to go overweight. That's for sure.
So we're gonna have to change your crown that I asked then, right? Oh no, never mind. You have a different crown that I asked. My bad.
Yeah,
We'll hold off on that.
Yeah, he was thinking. I
were
do
thinking
remember
about
that.
it.
Yeah, he changed it, but he was thinking about it.
I was.
All right, let's unless you guys have any, just general thoughts, we can just get into this breakdown and just start going through positions and start looking at Sterling's breakdown as well if you're ready for that.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right, so we've got Sterling's. Let's pop this up. If you guys aren't in the Dynasty DNA Discord, make sure you get in there. This is a hell of a free thing that Sterling writes up at each week. Super helpful to look at. That's available in the Dynasty DNA Discord. That's free. Jump in there. While you're at it, you might as well join the Edge DFS Discord. But let's look at this. So I'm going to sort by starting position. So Reddick, Keselowski, Mr. Buscher, Gibbs, William Byron, Kyle Larson, and Denny Hamlin there in the top 7. What jumps out to you here, man? It feels like we've had our discussions about Reddick, but Keselowski has a pretty good history at this track. You got Buscher, who last week was inches away from pulling out of a victory. Kyle Larson pulled that one out. We got Larson and Hamlin starting in the top 10, and it feels like these guys are just, it's a safe bet to say that these guys are going to be around at the end. But they're expensive. So, is there value in order to get 2 of these kind of guys? So what are we thinking as far as how are we handling like our dominators? Are we looking at, there's a guy starting in the way back that's going to be probably the highest owned. And there's some, there's a guy like Chase Elliott starting far back there. So, and I know that he's, as far as price wise, he's priced up there, but what are we thinking? How many guys do we need to get who we think can dominate this race, and how many PD guys should we be getting? Sterling, what are your thoughts on that? Just roster construction wise, DFS wise, before we start really jumping into these things.
Well, this is a place that it's pretty tough to pass at, actually. And we have, seems like it's been a long ass time since we've actually had the fast cars start inside the top 10. So you got Tyler Reddick, obviously, Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin. These guys all put down the best the best practice times, and William Byron, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, they've been the fastest cars all season. And those are the 3 that I'm going to be focused on. And I'll probably have at least one of them in every lineup. But then I'm going to look at least one of Tyler Reddick, Brad Keselowski, and Chris Buescher too, because I think this is a race that you need at least 2 guys starting inside the top 10 because of how tough it's gonna be to pass.
Thoughts on your end, Ryan?
Yeah, I've got the same. Yeah, you're gonna have to have I believe, a Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin. We've been saying it week after week. These higher tire wear tracks, I feel like Denny Hamlin's gonna be there at the end. It's always seemed like it's a Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin show at some point. So gonna have probably one of them, and then like I said, William Byron just put down monster laps. So I think he's gonna be sprinkled in there a lot too. So I agree with Sterling. You're gonna have one of them guys, and then maybe sprinkle in like a Brad K or Chris Buescher, and hope that he leads a little bit. You're gonna have to have 1 or 2 dominators probably, and then the rest place differential.
That's what I'm looking at. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It
and then, I mean,
feels-
we'll get to the place differential guys. I mean, like you said, we have Chase Elliott, but you also have some guys, little bit of value guys out there too that you guys can take to, to reach up for a couple of these guys.
It feels like everybody in the top 7 I'm going to get, we've talked about. What about Ty Gibbs, 8,500? Any interest in him?
I'll be honest. Me personally, he looked barely, but it looks like he fell off a little bit and then came back. But he's just a guy that just hasn't put together a full race yet. Like, I don't know. It seems like when I'm in on him, he just fades. When I'm not in on him, he doesn't do it. I don't know. He just hasn't done anything yet. And I don't feel like Darlington's the track he puts it together.
21st, 16th, 15th, didn't finish apparently in the next gen results. Yeah, it feels like, he put together a decent qualifying, but his track history isn't looking super awesome at this point. That's why I wanted to ask about him, because everybody else seems to. It feels like we could play a decent amount of all these guys in the top 7. Now, when it comes to Bubba Wallace, Chastain, Truex, Truex has a win here, I believe, right?
Yeah, Truex is an interesting one. I don't know what his ownership is, but I do know I'm gonna play some Truex. I don't know how you feel, Sterling, but
I'll probably have a little bit, but he's not somebody I'm gonna make a priority. And I might only play like 20 lineups. So if I get to like 15 and I'm just not liking it, I'm not gonna focus on him at all.
yeah.
But I just pulled it up to look at Ty Gibbs, our Darlington Xfinity results, and this was actually one of his worst tracks in Xfinity. So,
Oh, that's good to know.
So Ty Gibbs could be a little fade action going on here. I mean, he's probably not going to be that high owned. You'd have to think, right? What are you seeing on your end there, Cyril?
I'm seeing him, less than 10%.
Oof.
Yeah, so he's just one of these guys that we probably don't need to prioritize. If he ends up in 5 to 10% of our lineups, then fine. But you could just say X this MF out and save those 10% of your lineups potentially. But it feels like everybody else, what about Bubba Wallace? What about Chastain? Let's talk about this top 10. It feels like everybody except for maybe Ty Gibbs is in play. Are we liking a guy like Bubba Wallace? I mean, I feel like you got to kind of get to Bubba Wallace pretty much every week a little bit, right?
Yeah, he's a guy that I might play a little bit of, but like me and Sterling talked about on the podcast, it's like if I were getting on an airplane and Bubba Wallace was getting on that same airplane, I think I'd turn around and find another flight. Like, it's just this guy's just snake bitten. Like, it's not even his fault. I'm not even like, it just seems like he's getting caught up in other people's accidents, and like, I don't know, like he just. You agree, Sterling? Like,
I do.
He just bad luck, right? And it's got to turn around. Don't get me wrong. Like, eventually, he's gonna get a good finish, but I mean, it's just he just got bad luck. So I think for now, I'm gonna be underweight on him, but I'll play a little bit of him.
Yeah, and his practice speeds weren't really great at all. He put down a couple good laps, but nothing. I don't see any dominator speed there, and that's what you're going to need from him.
All right, let's sort by salary here, and let's get back to Sterling's breakdown here. So we've talked about most of these guys. We haven't really brought up Christopher Bell, but you got Chase Elliott here, 31st. Thoughts on Bell, thoughts on Elliott, Kyle Busch here at the top end of the pricing, just outside the top 10. Let's get to these guys here before we start jumping down to some of this value. You got guys like Eric Jones and Gregson that we'll talk about here in a second. But Elliott, Sterling, you seem to have a strong opinion on him here. But a guy that is starting that far back with the talent he's got, it seems like he's going to be high owned. So is this going to be a decision where we try to get some leverage and maybe fade a guy like this starting that far back? Or is this a situation where unless he completely crashes out, he's probably going to be in the optimal because he's starting so far back?
No, I think at his price, he's going to have to be top 5, maybe even get some dominator points. But I'm going to pretty much be a full fade on Chase Elliott because he starts back there where there's quite a bit of PD plays starting, actually. But the thing about those other guys, they're like 2,500 cheaper. And I think they have pretty similar ceiling, and you can make lineups that you get 2 of them instead of just 1 of Chase Elliott. So my idea of fading Elliott's really just basically roster construction.
Yeah, because you're going to have to choose from 2. You're probably going to want to choose from a couple of these guys over 10K, 2 guys probably. And it just kind of leaves Elliott as the odd man out because you have a lot of these dudes starting back there who are way cheaper that we may want to utilize. Go ahead, Ryan. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I was gonna say I don't actually mind that at all. Like Sterling said, he's gonna have to at that price. I don't have the math, but yeah, he's gonna have to get up to like 5th or 6th, to be 6 times money or 6 times value. Now Christopher Bell, I don't know how you feel about Christopher Bell, Sterling, but like I feel like that's a decent GPP pivot. And I'll probably, what's his ownership look like? Because that's one that I could see him coming out and running good, but he's been one that hasn't run good lately either.
So Chase Elliott only needs like a 12th place finish to hit 5x, which is obviously very doable. I think he does do that, but I still think you're going to need some Dawn points. I don't think 5x out of him is going to be enough. But as far as Chris,
22.8 down there.
Okay, yeah. So like 23% owned for Christopher Bell. And I want to throw out that had a guy in the Discord, old Benjamin. He pointed out during practice, Christopher Bell was kind of laying back there at times when he'd get in up behind cars. So he'd back off, get clean air, and make his laps. And when he was in clean air, he was laying down some pretty fast lap times. So starting 12th, I think he can make his way up inside that top 3, possibly get into the lead. And if you are playing Christopher Bell, you are playing him to lead. But I think their lap averages, if you get on NASCAR's website, it's going to make people not want to play him. So I think Christopher Bell is a good way to get different.
I agree.
Yeah, so you're saying Christopher Bell, his practice times could be a little misleading. So and he's starting 12th. The last 2 races here, based on your breakdown here in the next gen, what is that he's done, where's he at, 5th and 6th, or how do you have that laid out? Is 23rd his last race here, or is 6th his last race?
Yeah, 23rd would be the most recent.
Got it. So he's maybe not running super hot lately, but still a decent play. So who else do we want to talk about in this range? I mean, we always seem to bring up Kyle Busch on this show. This is still got to be just a wait and see with him. I mean, 11th, he's 9,400. It feels like Chase Elliott is just a better play if you think of it that way. But what are you thinking here with Busch at that price tag? Because he's only $200 more than Keselowski, and that feels like probably the better play.
I would actually argue like even Blaney's a better play.
I was going to say I would absolutely rather play either BK or Ryan Blaney.
Yeah, Ryan Blaney just looks like his lap times look fast. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, I think I'd rather just pivot the Ryan Blaney a lot rather than Kyle Busch. But
yeah, I actually don't mind the idea of something like William Byron and Ryan Blaney and then build from there.
I agree.
Let's go to this 7 to 8K range here. So let's talk about probably one of the higher owned guys, and probably two of the higher owned guys because of the value. You got a $7,500 Eric Jones. It looks like he's had some success in the past year. He's got 2 wins, one in the next gen, and Noah Gragson here at 7,200 starting in the far back. What are we doing with these guys, man? It feels like Gregson is going to be the higher owned guy just simply because we have all these expensive dudes. We probably have 2 like 10K plus guys that we're going to want to fit in potentially. So fitting in a $7,200 dude who's projected the way he is, if you're just using optimizers, he's going to be in, the first run is going to be in 1 million of your lineups. What are we doing with Jones and Gregson here, man?
Me personally, I think Gregson's a free spot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it like that. Like, I think Gregson's gonna be in just about every one of my lineups. I feel like that's a free spot. Like, you really can't burn you at that starting position and where his price is. I know we were talking pre-show. Eric Jones scares me personally. I think I might be a full fade on him just because of his back injury that he suffered a couple weeks ago in that accident. So he was cleared last week, but he didn't race. And then he's gonna race this week because this is his best track. But I just feel like with the rough surface, and I don't know, just if I hurt my back, I wouldn't want to be sitting in a car for 4 hours at a rough track that you just feel every bump. So that's my personal opinion. Eric Jones could very well come out here and finish in the top 10 and burn me and call me a liar. But we saw Alex Bowman last year with the same-ish injury. And he took a while to recover. Like, he just didn't he looked lost out there sometimes.
Yeah, he still doesn't really look the same.
Yeah, so that scares me with Eric Jones. So that's my personal opinion. I don't know, Sterling, you can add to that if you want to, but
Yeah, I mean, as far as Gregson, I'm 100% spot on with that on you. I mean, you go back through, look at the last 3 races. He's got top 10s in all 3 of them. Had a 9th at Kansas, a 6th at Dover. Those are somewhat similar tracks, just in the sense that you like to get up at the wall on
Yep.
them. But he had good practice speed too. But going down to Eric Jones, I feel like he's going to be one of the highest owned because everybody knows this is his best track. He's
Right.
got 2 wins. He always runs well here, but coming off that back injury, he said he's not 100%. He said 95, but I mean, come the fuck on.
Yeah. Now, one guy I'm curious to see your thoughts on is the 4th. I mean, obviously, every race this year that's non-super speedway has been won by Hendrick or Joe Gibbs. We have a Hendrick guy at 8,000 starting 18th in Alex Bowman. How do you feel about Alex Bowman? Because I think I'm going to play a decent amount. I don't know what his ownership's like, but I know I'm going to 16%. I'll probably be over the 16%.
I'll probably be right around there, maybe a little more. Thing I like about Bowman is I can see him coming on late in this race based off his practice. But the guy in this 7K range I like the most is actually Chris Buescher.
Yeah.
7,800 starting 3rd. We've seen what he did last week. That team is obviously on to something with 2 cars and
Inside the top 5.
top 3 too.
Or top,
so,
well, yeah, top 3.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, and we said on the Rattled podcast earlier in the week that this is a type of track that Chris Buescher is going to come out and excel at. So he backed that up in qualifying.
Yep. Then anybody else in the 7K? I don't think I'm interested in Suarez.
No.
And we talked about Gregson, Jones, Buescher, Bowman. Yeah, that's it. I think I'm a little bit interested in Bowman. I'm interested in Buescher, and Gregson's my free spot. I think he's going to be in just about every single lineup. So
6,800 here and below. Let's talk about these guys. Who jumps out to you? Briscoe 68, Barry 67, etc., etc. Obviously, we've talked about some of these other guys starting in the back in the 7K range that we like. Is there anybody down in this range that we're just Xing out I'm sure there's a couple. But what about guys that we like over the field in this 7K and below range?
I'm looking at Josh Berry the same way I'm looking at Noah Gregson. And ironically, those guys come from the same team here. But Josh Berry, his long run speed in practice was just insane. Like, he was laying down lap times that looked like he could actually go out and win this race. Now, I don't think he does that, but I honestly think he gets up there and finishes inside the top 15. And at 6,700, he is going to absolutely crush.
Now, how'd Stenhouse look? He looked pretty fast too, didn't he?
He looked decent early on, but then he really
fell off. Yeah, he did. There's a lot of red there. Okay.
Hey, you guys keep talking. I'll be right back. Just keep chatting about this.
Okay. Yeah, Stenhouse is a guy that he's been on fire, but that's weird he fell off. McDowell, how was his?
Thing about Stenhouse is this is the type of track there that I feel like he could just if he can start off hot, he can keep it going. But right below him there in price wise, you have McDowell at 6,500 starting 16th. Ironically, he laid down the best practice time in a practice, but I was watching that and was like, what the fuck's going on here? But the further into it we get, he really kind of fell off there. And
yeah, I didn't know with the contract, maybe he lights a fire under his ass. I don't know. I just feel like he overqualified. I don't know if I want any of them.
No, I would rather save 1,000, play his teammate Todd Gilliland.
No, I'd be curious, like what McDowell at 6,500, what he has to do, because he could sneak into a top 10. Like I would have to go home and do the math and see like if that would be like if he would sneak into a top 10.
He probably only needs like I would say maybe 14th, 13th.
See, I could see him doing that.
Can too. Like
you're gonna talk me. I'm gonna. Well, I guess I talked myself into it. I might talk myself into a little bit of McDowell. If he only needs 13th.
I don't think I want to play him, but let me do the math here real quick.
Okay. Dylan, yeah, he's dead to me almost. Cindric. How'd Cindric look in practice? Them Fords and Penske look.
He would need a 12th.
12th. Okay.
5X.
All right. So McDowell needs a 12th if you believe in that. I don't know.
He can do it, but I don't want to play him.
Yeah. How'd Cindric look?
Cindric looked fucking fast as fuck, and it makes no sense to me.
These Fords, maybe this is the race that Ford actually pulls it off.
If they do, it's with RFK.
Yeah. Because like Blaney looked fast, Cindric looked fast, RFK looks fast. Ford might pull it off. What's their? I wonder what their bet is.
Here we go. We gotta look at the Ford prop bet.
Yep. Anyway, all right. Anybody else in that range, Sterling?
No, I mean Austin Dillon. I'm not touching him at fucking all.
Yeah, I just said he's dead to me.
John Hunter Nemechek, not a terrible idea, I guess. I mean, he fucking ruined me in Xfinity today, but starting 22nd, 6,000. He had decent practice here at times, but I think at best he's like a 18th place car.
Right. Yeah, same here. Ryan Preece, boy, did he look bad last week. Yeah, he was like dead last the entire race.
You should have looked more into that study group thing.
Yeah. Was he fast or?
No, he was not.
Okay.
But the rest of SHR was.
I'm telling you, I think there's a rift there. Hocevar. Anything there?
I'm in between on him just because his practice absolutely fucking sucked. But it's Hocevar, and I feel like he's going to be right up against that wall. And I think he can get to like 15th, 16th. We'd seen last week he drove up to 11th there, and then obviously needed some tires at the end. But fuel, I can't fucking remember. I just ruined my lineup.
Yeah. And then the one guy we have to talk about in this range is Todd Gilliland. Gilly. I mean, we were talking about him. He put down some fast lap time. Like I said, these Fords are just unloaded fast, but we also have seen this before. they unload fast, and come race time, I don't know, something happens. They just are trimmed out, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. His practice just blows my mind. Like, he was the fastest car towards the end of practice. And
On NASCAR.com, now it takes averages, so it doesn't have the breakdown of lap per lap. It's just a 5-lap average, 10-lap average. And I was going through, because I was at the Pirate game, I was going through, and it said in 30-lap average, he was fastest. 25, he was fastest. 20, he was fastest. I was like, holy cow. Like,
well, if you look, he ran like 35-ish practice laps, and there's 3 laps that he was outside the top 20 in speed. So, I mean, as long
that's
as he can
crazy.
just hold on to that 15th place, I'm happy as fuck with it.
Yeah.
He's projecting well.
Oh, good.
He's projecting well right now. Like, obviously, this is Saturday night, late Saturday night. SaberSim has some numbers up. Like, what are you seeing on your guys' end as far as Gilliland and like projection and value wise? Because he's 5,500. So if you can get a guy at 5,500 who can at least keep his place differential, at least keep that 15th, it feels like a guy that we're going to want to look at a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing him projected at like 14% ownership, but points wise, he's projected to finish right there in 15th. So, I mean, that's all we need.
Yeah, that is all we need. Now, Harrison Burton. I mean, I know Harrison Burton's starting 35th, which is like pretty much dead last, but for him to be 15%, so he's actually going to be, they're projecting him to be higher owned than Todd Gilliland. I don't know if I can get there.
Track history looks good, but practice, he had nothing.
Yeah, I can't get behind Harrison Burton.
No, I mean, I could see playing him in like, I can't see playing him.
I can't get behind it. Justin Haley, he's just the last one I want to talk about, because he was my favorite value going into the week, but I didn't know how his practice looked.
His practice was like, top 25-ish.
His practice didn't look good. I think I'd just rather play Gilliland.
Yeah. But let's look for someone a little bit safer than Gilliland.
Well,
I know you feel like you got to go Harrison Burton in that case, but
yeah, if you want to play it safe, I don't know.
Daniel Hemrick, his practice is terrible, but he seems to somehow always end up there at the end. Fuck it. Todd Gilliland or nothing.
Anybody down here at the end that, in this sort of value range that you're just not even trying? Like, if I'm sitting here playing the mini max or something and I got 150 lineups, you still would be like, dude, take him out of your player pool.
Probably the bottom 3.
Yeah, Kaz and Kraus. I mean, you can make an argument for Kraus, but I would probably take Kaz, Kraus, Haley, Zane Smith, Corey LaJoy. Corey LaJoy is right there, borderline. I don't know what I want to do with him yet.
Yeah, I don't know either. Because now DraftKings has fast laps and laps led in their breakdowns. I didn't know that. Okay, well, that's cool to know. Yeah, if you hit the game log, it'll show that there are fast laps. But like, he's kind of shown speed lately, like the past couple weeks. Like,
He has to do something.
Yeah, like he's getting his butt kicked by his teammates, but yeah, I mean, finishing 18th, 21st. I don't know, but yeah, he's starting 24th, so I think
that's about where
I think he out-qualified himself.
So let's talk about some of these previous optimal lineups. And the reason why I bring this up, obviously, jump into the Discord, download this free awesome breakdown by Sterling. But just briefly talking about this, I like to look at this just to get an idea as far as our salary. Like, if we're willing to embrace that full 50K, if we want to cap ourselves. This feels like a situation where we leave it open, right? I mean, don't cap yourself at all. and be willing to maybe leave 1,000 on the table here and there, or maybe 1,500. I know we're just looking at the past few years, and this isn't the absolute. But this always gives me a good idea looking at these total salaries from the optimals in the past. What are you guys thinking about your salary caps, and just what is this, like a 47 to 50K sort of day, and just maxing out that salary?
I think I'll probably be all over the place kind of. I'll probably have a couple that are maxed out and then a couple that probably leave like 1,000, maybe 1,500 on the table.
Yeah, I haven't built a whole lot yet, but the lineups I have built, I think the most I've left was 700. So I could see leaving like 1,000, but I don't know if I want to leave any more than 1,000.
All right, good to know. I always like to sort of start with that information as I'm building, and just crunch out a bunch of lineups with no restrictions on salary, and then crunch out a couple with some different caps and kind of see where it takes me. Let's keep moving through here. By the way, anything else? Anything to talk about here as far as these previous optimals that you wrote up here, Sterling? Anything jump out to you? Is there anything that we need to mention?
The biggest thing I noticed was in a lot of these races, there was really only like one main dominator. So you can definitely get away with one dominator and plays differential. But I'm gonna be looking for two dominators just because I think everybody else goes for all them PD plays.
Got it. All right, let's talk about this, Sterling. You want to talk about your speedster points? Break this down for us.
This race is 293 laps, so that gives us 73 and a quarter points for laps led. Then going back through, I always go back through the past 10 races and see how many caution laps have been ran. And in the last 10 races, we've had an average of 47 caution laps. So then I'll take 293, take away those 47 caution laps. That'll give us roughly 246 green flag laps I have written down here. So we should have roughly 110 points for fast laps, which will give us around 184 total speedster points, which is where I'm going to be looking for at least one, probably two guys in every lineup. And you could stretch that out to three, but I don't think you need to do that.
Good info there, man. Let's talk about your guys' cores. So Byron, Gregson, Barry for you, Sterling. Byron, Elliott, Gregson, Stenhouse Jr. for Ryan. Let's talk about that briefly before we get to our crown their ass and our fades.
I'm all in on Byron just because he had insane speed in practice. And then Gregson starting last, pretty good speed in practice. Like he should be a top 15th, definitely a top 20th. And Josh Berry, same thing, starting back there in 33rd. He should be a top 15, definitely a top 20 car. I could see Gregson, Berry both getting inside the top 10. I could see Byron leading a majority of this race and winning it. So that's how I'm building. Byron leads half this race. Gregson, Berry finished top 17.
So both of you guys agree on Byron and Gregson. Elliott, on the other hand, we're having a little bit of a different debate here as far as Elliott. Ryan, you're going to embrace Chase Elliott starting that far back. We talked about what does he need to finish in the top 12 to pay that off. Yeah. So thoughts on Elliott here, and when you say your core, how crazy are you guys getting? Are we spread out? Are we doing Gregson, 100% Gregson? Are we capping our favorite guys? What are we doing here?
I'm probably going to be over 80% Gregson.
Yeah, I try not to go over like 60% typically, but I'm probably going to be closer to like 70, 80, maybe even 90% on all three of my guys, Byron, Gregson, Barry.
Yeah, probably Byron and Gregson. I will. Chase Elliott. Like I said, I was at the Pirate camp and I was just looking at practice times. And then like the more we talked about it, like even pre-show and during the show, it's like maybe Elliott isn't necessarily like a core play. He has run good here and he was the leader there a couple of years ago. So me and Sterling were talking about, and I can't remember who it was. It was either Logano or Hamlin, like spun him on the last lap or 2 to go or something like that. So like Elliott does have good track history here. Now whether you feel like he could get up there, I don't know. I don't know either. But Stenhouse, this is a Stenhouse track. So that's why I got Stenhouse in there. I just feel like Stenhouse has been on a roll lately, and this is a track. He with his dirt background and everything, he loves high tire wear tracks. So I feel like at 6,600, he could be a guy that hovers around, I want to say like 10th to 14th, and I feel like that's all you need from him.
Yeah, and he was up damn near top 5 there for a little while last week.
Yeah, he's been on a roll lately, so I feel like he could be an undervalued guy.
So Gilly is in both of your guys' value. We've got Harrison Burton and Hocevar. After we've been talking here, Sterling, does that still hold true as far as your value guys?
Yeah, Gilliland's definitely my favorite just because of his speed, and I really do think he can hold on to that top 15 all race, and maybe we see him run along and lead a couple laps, which I really don't want to see, because if he does that, he's going to end up losing a lot of time. So I hope he just stays on the same pit cycle and just goes for like a top 15 finish, I guess. But as far as Harrison Burton, I threw him in there just because he can't really hurt you, and he's starting all the way in the back. So we're probably going to have a few guys wreck out. So I'd say Harrison Burton's looking at a floor of like 20 points. Carson Hocevar, he's a guy that I'm kind of in between on, but I definitely like him. He's got a ton of talent, and I want to say he's starting 21st. He had roughly top 20 speed in practice, and I kind of feel like he's a good pivot off of Todd Gilliland because he starts a little further back, and I think he has a very similar ceiling.
All right, let's get into our crown their ass here. Let's pull that up. Let's do it.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Sterling, you're going Byron. Ryan, you're going Larson. We haven't talked a ton about Larson, but what's there to talk about, right? I mean, he's probably going to be there around at the end, most likely. Let's talk about Byron here. So if people are skipping around, why do we like Byron so much? You guys both seem to like him quite a bit. Sterling, he's your favorite guy on this slate based on the price, based on the ownership. What are we thinking on Byron? Reiterate why you love him so much.
He ran roughly, we'll say 25 laps in practice, and there was only 2 laps that he was like actually slow. But for the most part, he had top 3 speed all practice long, every lap. 4, 3, 1, 1, 1, 13, 36, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. Like, dude was fast as fuck all practice long.
Yeah, he's fast.
Going with Larson feels like, picking Patrick Mahomes as your the favorite captain on a showdown slate, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. What jumps out to you here, Ryan, as far as Larson, is just because it's Kyle Larson?
It's because it's Larson. I mean, he ran good in practice once again. I mean, that team's just fast every week. Was it last year or 2 years ago? He tried that video game move where he rode the wall on the last lap.
Can't remember if that was last year or 2 years
But
ago.
This is a track another track where he gets around good at. So I just feel like at the end he's gonna be there, like we said, and you said, Tyson, it'll be probably Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, and William Byron there at the end. It'll just be between them 3 probably, if I were to make a guess.
Yeah.
So
all right, let's get to our fade here.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
So we teased it in the beginning, and it seems like over the course of this show and pre-show, we've all kind of talked about maybe fading Reddick. Sterling, you're going with a fade on Elliott, and Ryan, it seems like you're sort of, moving towards maybe not being as high on Chase Elliott. But let's talk about the elephant in the room here as far as Reddick. It feels like to me, I know he's coming in maybe around 25% owned, but it feels like he's going to be a top 3 owned. That's just my opinion. That's just kind of what it feels like. And look, we got to make some bold moves here, man. Like, sometimes it doesn't work out, and if he finishes first and he wins and you fade him, you're screwed. Let's just be honest here. But if he also just makes one wrong move and gets into the wall and you have 0% or a low amount, you are going to be feeling good about yourself. So what are we doing here with Reddick? Consensus wise, Sterling, are you on the kind of the same page yet, or are you still kind of figuring out where you're going to go with him?
I'm not going to fully fade him. Like, I'll probably have maybe 20%. But that's, like I said earlier in the show, that's mainly because of his pit stall. And we know the number 1 pit stall at Darlington is huge. He had decent speed in practice, but there's definitely faster cars around him. I don't think he gets there, but I want to make sure I have a little bit of him just to cover my ass.
Yeah, I don't think he gets there. I think I might go full. I haven't made lineups yet, but I might go full.
Track history is what does it for me.
I can't argue with you. I mean, I'm not,
and who knows?
It could bite me.
I don't have any built with them yet. Maybe when I get done, I don't have any at all.
Yeah.
But I do plan on trying to get a little bit of them.
Because let's just be honest, if he's 35% owned, it just feels like you got to make a decision. You're either way under. To me, like, I wouldn't waste 10% ownership on him, because out of those 10% of my lineups, the chances of me hitting the nuts out of those 10% are probably so low that I would rather just say, screw it. But I willing to throw away some money on NASCAR. Some, others may not. But it almost feels like you got to make a decision. Do I just go way over the field, or do I just say none? I don't know. Am I crazy to say that? Like, I know, Sterling, you were thinking of getting maybe 20%. And if he comes in at 25% owned, that's fine. But it feels like he's going to be up there. I don't know why. Just a gut feeling.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. I think you make a stand, and I think you choose that. Like, either like you said, like 5% or below, or 40% or above. Like, yeah, that's a good point.
And I don't think there's a wrong answer. It's just whatever that's on you. Whatever you feel is best. The easiest path to absolutely crushing is just saying 0. But then that's also the easiest path to absolutely being screwed and, putting a couple $100 into this and ending up with $20. That's really how it goes. All right. So let's actually get into a lineup build, guys. Let's do it. So obviously, we missed last week. I was out shooting some stuff in Florida. We're back. Our goal is to be here every week for you guys. And obviously, if something happens where we can't do this show, you still have the podcast that these guys are doing weekly. What are you guys releasing that on Thursday? Rattled Cage, or is that Friday?
Yeah, it's like Thursday night most of the time, or Friday. Yeah, depending on the week. Sometimes we'll have something going on, but yeah, it's right around the Thursday, Friday range.
And make sure you guys listen to that. That's a great way to start wrapping your brain around what's happening that coming up week. They talk about a little bit about trucks, a little bit about Xfinity, like what happened last week, and obviously Cup. So make sure you guys are subscribed to them on all your platforms and jump in the Discord. Let's build some lineups, guys. So let's talk about first. Let's build like a chalky cash sort of optimal build, and not even worried about ownership or anything. Let's just try to get the best build, as if we were trying to like build the optimal here. So what are you thinking here? where should we go if we're doing this? And to me, if I'm not really playing like single entry or cash for NASCAR. To me, it's not really appealing to me because it's such a crazy sport and anything can happen. It feels like a waste. But if we were to do that, this would be a situation where maybe I do hedge a little bit potentially. Maybe this is where I'd play Reddick and I'd fade him in my GPPs. What do you guys think about our roster construction here, and how do we handle like a cash build?
Yeah, I don't mind that at all to hedge it a little bit. Yeah, what do you think, Sterling?
Yeah, I'd be all right with that. But as far as a cash build, first we have to decide: do we want to get a dominator, or do we just want to go place differential?
Yeah, because you could just play it safe and just do all place differentials and just hope that they all move forward enough to, get the back end of the, double your money or triple your money kind of thing.
I think actually we could go all PD and Chris Buescher. I think that would be an interesting cash play.
Yeah, and if actually, to be honest, what about starting with a Christopher Bell? Go like a Christopher Bell, Chris Buescher. Yeah. Because Christopher Bell, you got the place differential and the potential dominator.
Yeah.
So yeah, I almost liked starting like that.
Yeah, because I think Bell, I'd say he's a top 5 car, if not a car that can go out and lead. So if we're looking at this as a cash build, I think Christopher Bell is a good play. Yeah.
Okay.
Where are we going next? You want to grab another expensive guy here over the 10K range? Is this a Larson situation? And are we playing Reddick in cash, or is this more of a situation where there's more things that can go wrong for Reddick? So this might not be the best play. I don't know. What do you think?
If we're approaching this for cash games, I think Chase Elliott has to be in there because he'll probably be 70% owned in cash games, if not more.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Gregson here too.
Yep. I think Gregson's, like I said, in about 80% of my lineups.
All right, so we've got a decent amount of salary here. Are we looking at some of these dudes starting way in the back, or is that a little too risky with maybe getting a couple laps down? I don't know. What are you thinking here? Who's our next guy here? We got 7,600 per spot, so we could go low and then go higher salary, or we can just get mid range across the board here on these last two spots.
I think we should go Josh Berry.
I was thinking that too.
That puts us at 85. So you got Bowman, you got Eric Jones. This probably feels like an Eric Jones if we're looking at ownership here. We want to embrace it, right?
Eric Jones or Bowman, Sterling?
It's tough.
That is tough. That's like a coin flip for me. I think Bowman has more upside, but Eric Jones is probably safer. So yeah, I mean probably Eric Jones.
Yeah.
And I know he's got a messed up back. I totally get that. But it feels like to me like people aren't going to care because he was cleared. Yeah. So if he's coming in at 25-30% ownership, well, maybe in a cash build that would be the deciding factor because Alex Bowman is going to be 10% owned.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true.
That's my only thought behind it. So you got a ton of PD dudes basically, and you got Chris Buescher up there for a cash build. All right, that's boring. I don't want to talk about cash. I want to talk about GPPs. I want to talk about the big contest. So let's build for that. And how are we going to get different? Roster construction wise, we're gonna go 2 dominators as opposed to maybe 1 or 0. So let's do that. So is this a situation where we fade Reddick in this build? Do you want to start out that way? What are you guys thinking?
I would try. Like you said, if we wanted to get different, let's fade Reddick and let's go 2 of Byron Hamlin or Larson. Let's just pick 2 of them and stick to it.
Yeah, I like that.
So if we go Byron, Hamlin.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Yep, and you
And
could
go from there.
build two different
Let's see.
lineups with either Hamlin or Larson, you know?
Yeah.
So this feels like we should just immediately grab our value. Do you agree with that? Like, is this a Gilly situation? Is this a Burton situation? Who do we want to get down here?
I'll be honest, at like 14%, I say let's just grab Gilly and hope that.
Yeah, if we're building for the 15, I think we go Gilly.
Yeah.
All right, and then our free square, let's just put in Noah Gragson, right? Like, pretty much every lineup that we're going to build is going to have him. So let's just put him in.
Yeah.
And we're in a very similar position here. We've got 2 spots left with 7,400. So do we go F it and go low and try to grab another one of these top end dudes, maybe in the 9K range or whatever? Or do we want to be middle of the road? Is this a Mr. Busher situation? Are we, where are we going here in these last 2 spots? You want to do something bold?
I'll be honest. I was sitting here looking, like, I like the Busher move, and then if you play Busher, then it leaves 7,000, and I feel like a lot of people in that range are going to pick Josh Berry, and like, if this is a GPP, I think I'm going to pivot off that and try Stenhouse.
I like it.
Yeah, I knew you were going to do that. I love that. So we got William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Gilliland, Gregson, Busher, Stenhouse. You got Busher, Byron, and Hamlin all starting in the top 10, and the rest of these guys are sort of PD dudes, or at least in Gilly's case, just don't fuck up too bad. Just stay 15th.
Yeah.
Don't try to lead. Don't even try to lead. Just stay in that 15th area.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you guys have Sterling? Do you have another roster construction or another build you want to do, or you want to call it?
That's up to you guys. I can do another one, or the 2 we just did. I like how we approach those.
Let's call it. Make sure you guys jump into the Discord. There's a lot of smart dudes in there in the Dynasty DNA Discord, the NASCAR channel. Make sure you guys jump in. I'm always over there asking stupid questions but getting very generous, nice responses. So make sure you guys are in there. What'd you learn here, guys, after talking this through? I feel like I have a really good idea as to how I'm going to approach this. Like, the last thing I want to do is just kind of willy-nilly just hit crunch and just kind of do whatever. I want to have some solid opinions, whether they're right or wrong. That's to be determined, but having opinions on things and making stands is kind of just the baseline for what we're doing here. So what'd you guys learn as the show went along?
Yeah, I mean, on the way here, I was all full on Chase Elliott, and the more we talked about it, the less I think I'm going to be in on him. I'm probably going to still have a little bit of it, and it's like you said, it's just nice to just talk about it out loud with somebody else and get somebody else's opinion and kind of go off it. I mean, Sterling was the same way with Tyler Reddick, and now he's kind of shifted a little bit. So, yeah, it's just nice talking out loud.
Yeah, I realize I'm going to have a very tight player pool.
Yeah.
I love it, guys. We appreciate you. What do we got next week?
Next week is the All-Star race at North Oaksboro, which is going to be...
It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
Don't we have Larson not qualifying? Is he doing... Yeah, what's going on with that?
He's running the Indy 500, so he'll be practicing qualifying there.
Is that Harvick that's qualifying for him in his car?
Yeah. Kevin Harvick, which should be cool. I mean, he did retire there at the end of last year, so he's going to come back and qualify. I think they qualify. I know he's going to practice, and I'm pretty sure they qualify. So
I want to say they run heat races.
Yeah,
they're doing something different.
So yeah, we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that. So, but Larson should be there for the race. So
yeah.
So this all-star race, like, all right, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but what do we need to know about this? Like, is this just complete bullshit, like roll the dice, or is there a decent strategy to this?
It's the first time they're going to be on this track since it was repaved. So we have no idea what to expect. We get a 50-minute practice session.
Yeah. As of now, I know this will change. As of now, I plan on just playing light last week or next week and kind of maybe.
Yeah, I'm saving for the Coke 600.
Yep. So that's my game plan. I mean, we'll still have a breakdown, and
Oh yeah.
I'll probably end up throwing more lineups than I plan to, and that's how it always goes. But
maybe we'll throw the wheel into it next week again. Maybe.
There we go.
All right, guys, we appreciate you. Throw us a like on the way out. Get us to 30 likes. We will see you guys next week.
All right.